Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Esports Money, ZSM, Mac10, whatever you want to call me, and welcome to another episode of the DotA 2 Daily with me. So, today we're going to be talking about Miracle's Bloodseeker, and this is going to be much more of a lesson about the hero itself and the way that it's played today than it is about Miracle's specific play. But regardless, let's get started.
Hey guys, if you like my content, hit those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps me out. Thanks.
Alright, so the game volume is probably going to be slightly louder than usual. I think I will go ahead and turn it down in a moment. And Miracle's going to get bullied out pretty thoroughly in the early game, but that's not really what this is about. In fact, this video is more or less a testament to how strong Blood Hero is in the current patch, and a testament to how good Miracle is at playing Bloodseeker in the current patch. So in the Dota 2 hero VODs that I do, my volume is set to 75%, and I think 25 is a good compromise when I'm doing these, because I need to think clearly. So this is an in-house tournament game. Liquid.Miracle is on this team. Liquid Man. I didn't think this was a full Liquid 5 stack. Yeah. So Kaipe, Bone 7, and I don't actually know who that is. Whatever. So it is an in-house tournament. It's not a high-stakes match. However, Miracle is taking a significant amount of harassed damage starting out, because he is, of course, laning against Admiral Bulldog, who's the best Nature's Prophet offlaner in the world and one of the better offlaners in the planet. I mean, yeah, he did win TI. So Weehaw is also against him, who you're going to start seeing a lot of content out of my YouTube channel related to him, at least in terms of his VODs, and maybe some analysis of him, because I think he's one of the best players around, and I think he deserves more credit than he does. But anyway, let's talk about the game. So Miracle opens up with a pack of Tangos and a Poor Man's Shield, and he's going to be the safe lane farming carry against an aggressive tri-lane. Now, I can't really tell you how he knows 100% that he's going to be safe against a tri-lane. One reason is probably he might suspect the Silencer mid, and if you can suspect the Silencer mid, which is, again, a little bit off because Crit is not a mid player, but if you suspect the Silencer mid, and then you can just think, well, the Void's going to be off lane, because Kaipe Bone 7 is going to have a very hard time killing a safe lane Faceless Void because of the time walk and the time dilation. So you can actually do an aggro tri-lane and try to shut down Matumba and Miracle. It also makes sense to put an additional amount of pressure on these two guys because they're on the same team and therefore are used to playing with each other a lot. So he goes to the most conservative build possible, which is a Poor Man's Shield and a pack of Tangos. The Tangos are obviously going to help him stay alive, and the Poor Man's Shield also helps him staying alive by giving him I think that's like a single point of armor, something like that, via the 6 agility, and then the 100% 20 damage block, because he's a melee hero. Now, it does give you 6 damage, but really this is an all-in on I really want to be as tanky as possible build as you can get. And if we look back at the Courier, there's a Quelling Blade for Mind Control, but that's it, and Mind Control is mid. So there's really nothing, like Miracle doesn't have anything queued up except for this Portal Scroll. He wants to get a Quelling Blade, but he might have to think about getting even more regen. He's got the Dazzle with him, but still. Another thing about Bloodseeker is that this is an even more defensive build than usual because of the fact that he has Blood Rage. So Blood Rage heals you for 19% at level 1, and then you can see he scales up to 25 of the total hit points, the max hit points of whatever creep you kill, or CS in lane. And you have that heal, which is actually why he was originally such a popular jungle. You have that heal combined with a Poor Man's Shield, combined with a Tango. This is a very, very defensive play for Miracle. Go back and put player perspective onto Miracle. So he steps up a little bit because he thought that Weehaw had backed off, and then just gets picked accordingly. I can turn this up. I'm going to turn this up to 1.5x for a minute. And he's not going to have the easiest time in the laning phase because they're against an aggressive tri-lane. And Bloodseeker is okay in lane by himself. He's not great. If you can build him to be a little more sustainable. But this is not the ideal laning situation. So Miracle's going to try to CS, going to do a little bit of running around in the bottom lane. Just trying to get what CS he can, banking on getting the Blood Right kill, or the Blood Rage kill, not the Blood Right, that is the second skill. So he does boop Admiral Bulldog a little bit. But remember, Blood Rage also increases the damage that a unit takes. So this means that Admiral Bulldog's boars are more of a threat. Miracle is going to dive here and die here, but the dive is worth it because he buys out before. I believe he bought out beforehand there. So something that I find interesting, and it's not really apparent yet, is the skill build that Bloodseeker is going to go. So getting Blood Rage at level 1 is pretty standard, and then he gets Thirst at level 2, which is also pretty standard and pretty obvious, and I mean, just it's very common. But where he goes from here is going to be of greater interest. So, going to go ahead and keep moving about. Another thing about Thirst is most people think of it as a ganking skill, but if you get a little bit lucky and there's someone low, including the people chasing you on the enemy team, then it actually allows you an escape mechanic. So he's going to put a couple of points into his third. He's going to put a second point in Thirst, which is really weird to me because typically I get the point in Blood right. The 120 damage is a great value proposition because it's pure damage. What does pure damage mean? Pure damage means no matter what you have on you, no matter what, except for a few very specific damage-reducing abilities, you take the full 120 damage when that is cast on you. You take 120, period. You don't take 121. You can amplify it only with Blood Rage, which is another thing people don't think about a lot, but we'll get to this. So, while this is going on, I'm going to bring up the Bloodseeker DotA wiki. Miracle is going to get a couple of picks here, but remember, this is not the part of the game I found to be most exciting. So, he's got a single point in Blood Right, and 2 points in Thirst at level 4, and 1 point in Blood Rage. Now, personally, I like to get more points in Blood Rage, but we'll have to watch and see what he does. I have watched this replay entirely, but I watched it entirely when it came out, which I think was 36 hours ago. I've kind of held on to it. So, okay, found what I wanted to find. So, moving on. Miracle is going to jump around a bit here. He's checking the Bloodseeker's items a lot because he wants to see if he can take down Weehaw, which he cannot. So Matumba gets relatively close. He's going Phase Boots, which is also an interesting proposition because the hero can move very, very, very fast with the Thirst bonus, and with the Phase Boots you have an even greater movement speed, and you can move through units. So I think Phase Boots they're an item that I've underrated for a very long time because of the plus 24 damage. I think that they should be held in a greater value, especially in the mid-game. Another thing about Phase Boots is it kind of says, I want to fight a little bit more than I want to farm on a lot of heroes. On Bloodseeker it can kind of go any way because Bloodseeker's trying to amplify movement speed, but when you want overall stats, you're going Treads. When you just want right-click damage and movement speed, you go for the Phase Boots. If you value movement speed higher than any other part of the equation, you also go Phase Boots because of that phasing. So he's going to go ahead and get the Rupture. He's got 3 points into Thirst. And Crit just gives up because he knows he can't run away. Interesting choice here, or what I thought was an interesting choice, is the Infused Raindrop. So, Infused Raindrops block 150... Yeah, 150 magic damage with a threshold of 50 magic... 120 magic damage with a threshold of 50 magic damage with up to 5 charges. So 5 times 12 is 60, so they can get you up to 600 blocked magic damage with a minimum of 250 blocked magic damage. This is very good against heroes that do magic damage, but Silencer, it's pretty much just the big stuff. The Arcane Curse damage over time is not enough to trigger it, as you can see. The AA... So, Chilling Touch does do magical damage, so Chilling Touch will trigger it. But I believe the reason that he bought it here is not for the shield, it's for the 0.85 mana regen. This is a very cheap item, so this is... Where is Raindrops? So Raindrops are 225 gold versus what I believe is right out 500. Yeah, so 500 for the Ring of Basilius. The reason that Ring of Basilius and Ring of Aquila subsequently are such popular items, and have been such popular items over the years, is because 0.65 mana regen is way better than a percentage-based mana bonus for the first 20 minutes of the game for almost every hero. However, the Infused Raindrops gives you 0.85, so it's 0.2 more. Like, it's almost a third more mana. It's like it's between 25 and 32% more mana regen than Ring of Basilius, which cost over twice as much. So very, 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 very strong value proposition. The Infused Raindrop, I think, is good against heroes that do massive amounts of magic damage, but I think it's actually... there are situations where it can be even better against teams where you're not expecting to take magic damage, because then you get to keep the item, and you get to keep the 0.85 mana regen for a much longer period of time. And I believe that's what he's doing here. So he's going to go for the Hand of Midas. Notice how he got a few stats items up before the Hand of Midas. He got the Quelling Blade, he got the Raindrops, he got the Poor Man's Shield, and the reason being is that, or the reason that I suspect that he got the Raindrops, again, is the mana regen. And the Poor Man's Shield gives you a little bit of damage. It makes you more tanky, though. And the Quelling Blade makes you hit harder against creeps, and the Phase Boots let you hit harder in general, and let you move around the map faster. A lot of people don't think about the fact that when you're farming with a hero that is pretty durable and doesn't really worry about dying in the jungle, Bloodseeker, it's very important how fast you move to how fast you farm. So by getting these early game items before he rushes a Midas, he's able to farm the jungle more efficiently, and he's not held back by the... He didn't screw up at some point and end up getting a even later Midas because he didn't have the early game items to survive the laning phase. So he didn't rush a Midas, he got the basic items that set him up and let him contribute. Also, because he has the Infused Raindrops, if he actually kept them in his inventory, he would have enough mana for almost guaranteed continual Rupture on top of Blood Right whenever he wanted to. Now, another thing I want to talk about is Blood Rage, and the fact that it affects everything Bloodseeker does, including Iron Talon damage, so I personally really enjoy Iron Talon on this hero, and when I jungle him, you of course witness this. But we'll get into that a little more later. So it's very... I think the important thing here is just remember to keep Blood Rage on you. Wait. Blood Rage... Okay. So... The important thing to remember here is to keep Blood Rage on you when you're using abilities like Bloodlust, or when you're using any ability, really. Any damage-dealing ability, you want to have Blood Rage on you. Another thing that people don't realize is, and I'm only going to pause really briefly here, the Blood Rage is an ability that also increases the amount of damage that you take in addition to the amount of damage that you deal. So if you have level 4 Blood Rage, you have a 6-second cooldown with a 12-second duration. If you think you're about to gank someone, you can Blood Rage yourself, run up, Blood Rage them, and then hit them with the Rupture, and now you're dealing 40% on top of the original Rupture damage, and then another 40% from what they're taking. And I don't think it works out 40 plus 80. I think there's a diminishing way in which it stacks, but it does stack a lot more. The person will be taking a pretty significant amount of damage. In fact, it does not say on the wiki, but it does say about Blood Right, which we'll get into. So I'm going to speed this up a bit. He's going to just farm his face off at this point, and I think the reason that he prioritized Thirst over everything else is because of the mana issues that the hero has. And you can see him trying to address this with the Infused Raindrop. And if you're trying to get the Rupture off regularly, then the mana issues become even more apparent. And with the Thirst, it's obviously a passive, so you don't have to... it doesn't burn any mana of yours. But the debate brings you to, do I put points in Blood Rage or do I put points into Thirst? And Blood Rage, it gets better over time, pretty significantly, but it's not an ability that really justifies maxing it versus the Thirst seems to scale better. So this starts at 25, it goes to 30, so it gives you a 20% bonus of what it gives you. This goes from 16 to 24, so it gives you a 50% bonus of what it gives you. So mathematically, it is better. Another thing is, because it gives you movement speed, it can allow you to do some really clutch things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, versus Blood Rage just becomes a better version of itself. It doesn't have the ability to really change the dynamic of the game on its own by putting additional points into it, and there are absolutely moments that Thirst can do that. So you can see he put a second point into Bloodright. He does want to max this ability as soon as possible, and to get all these maxed, you're going to be level 16, so he doesn't really want to do that either. So you kind of have to pick and choose. I think the reason that he put a second point into Blood Rage is that so that he could always have it. So at level 2, it's got a 10-second duration and a 10-second cooldown. So he puts a second point into that so he can always have it, and then maxes Bloodright next. Pretty sure he maxes Bloodright next. Yeah, so he does put the third point into Bloodright. And something that's kind of interesting is that he goes for 225 health at level 10 instead of plus 25 damage. And why? You're probably wondering, why would you do that? Why would you go for 225 health over the damage? Well, that's a very large amount of health to a hero that naturally builds a poor man's shield and has a decent amount of armor because he's an agility hero. So you have 8 armor and you have a poor man's shield. You put that extra health on and you're very tanky. The extra 30 damage is probably not going to lead to a kill in most situations, but the extra 225 health will lead you to be alive. And because of the mechanic of Blood Rage and the fact that you heal every time you get a CS on an enemy unit, you will be able to keep your health bar full with that extra 225 on you. So it makes more sense to go for the 225 in most situations. Another thing is, and I'm getting ahead of myself again, we're going to be trying to do a lot of AoE damage on this hero, so because of that we're talking magic damage, and therefore we don't give as much of a shit about our physical single target right click damage. And Miracle will get his face blown off here, but we're getting there. So, I am going to skip around a little bit. I'm not focusing as much on who's winning and losing this game as much as I'm focusing individually on Miracle's play. So, skip away, skip ahead, skip ahead. Alright, so, going to rewind just a hair here. Okay. So, we're now at 22 minutes. He's gone for the Yules. And he's got the Hand of Midas, so he's kept farming. He's gone for the Yules. He's going for the Yasha into Manta style. And he has a maxed out Bloodright with 3 points in Blood Rage. And he now digs level 15, and he gets the extra Bloodright damage. Alright, hold on just a second. So Bloodright, because it's a spell, it scales with your intelligence. So you're now doing 325 pure damage. So 325 magical damage isn't that much because pretty much every single hero in the game has 25% base magic resist. Yeah, 25 for this hero. Like Anti-Mage has, like, with his passive, he's got like 75 or 80. And you only deal 100% minus the percent of your resist is the percentage damage you deal. So if you have 25% magic resist, then you're only dealing 75% of the 325 here. But wait, this is pure damage, so you get all 325. Additionally, you have a level 3 Blood Rage, which means you deal an additional 35% damage with your Bloodright. So I'll do the math for you because the wiki did it for me. Max level Blood Rage applied on Bloodseeker with this talent, he's doing 441 damage. And if you use Blood Rage on the enemy before they're hit with it, they're taking 617 damage. Because this is pure damage, that's a huge deal. If you get a 5-man Bloodright, even without putting Blood Rage on anyone but yourself, you just lowered everyone's hit points by 441 points. You've just taken out somewhere between 20 and 40% of an enemy team's health if you're sub 30-minute mark, just by casting a single spell that costs 100 mana on a 12-second cooldown. That's why this hero is broken right now, guys. That's why this hero is so good. Because that's pure damage. Oh, I forgot to mention, they're also silenced for 6 seconds after getting hit by that. It's an easy ability to look at and not be afraid of it, and it's an easy ability to look at and not see the prioritization of it as a goal. But if you use it and you hit the Blood Rage right, it works. Also, I think okay, so the total time is a 2.6 second delay plus a 0.4 second cast time. So I think if you cast Blood Rage after you cast Blood Right, it gives you the bonus damage as long as the buff is on you when the damage is dealt. Otherwise, Miracle wouldn't be doing it because I trust him to be better and more knowledgeable about the game than anyone watching this. So we're going to go with that, but you get the idea. So Dire can't really do much about this fight. Radiant's just too tanky, and they have them run ulti up. Oh, let's talk about Yules real quick. So why is Yules a good item on Bloodseeker? Yeah, arrow gets hit, and this is a textbook kill. So why do you get Yules on Bloodseeker? So Yules is a basic dispel, but Rupture can't be dispelled. What that means is if you Rupture someone, and then they do what you should do if you get Ruptured, TP away, and you don't have a Basher, you can interrupt the TP by Yulesing them, and they'll take 50 magic damage upon landing. They're Yulesed for 2.5 seconds. So you cast, you disable the TP, and then in 2.5 seconds, you can start hitting them again, or they have to run away again. Rupture cannot be dispelled, and it lasts for 12 seconds. So assuming there's a half-second delay there, after you Rupture and Yules them to break the TP, you still have 9 seconds where they don't have a TP, and they're Ruptured up. Another thing to take into consideration here is don't Yules them before they TP, because then they can just TP after they land. So, yeah. Also, not that great against Tinker, because Tinker's just going to refresh and try to TP out again, but you might be able to kill him during the interim. So, I'm going to skip up a little bit. We do see him going for the Manta. And... So he gets the Manta, and now he's going... What is he going? Where's he going, guys? He's going Octarine Core. So, let's do a brief review of Octarine Core does. So everyone knows that Octarine reduces your cooldown time by 25%, but it also gives you 25% lifesteal, even though it's only 5% against creeps. But it also gives you 25 int. I'll actually just let this play. I'm going to skip ahead to when he actually gets the item. Okay, so he's got the item now. So Blood Right does 342 damage before the buff. So you've got an AoE of... You've got that 441 damage, plus you're dealing... I think you're dealing close to 500 damage. Why isn't this... Oh, here we go. I think you're dealing close to 500 damage to everyone in an AoE if you hit yourself with your Blood Rage. Also, notice here, he didn't go for the Rupture damage, which I might have, but he's not going Ag, so it doesn't matter that much. But he goes for the -7 second Blood Right cooldown, and he's already got the 25, and he's got the Octarine Core. So now, on a 3.75 second cooldown, you have a 500 area of effect pure damage spell that you lifesteal 25% of the damage to yourself from heroes and 5% from creeps. And because the cooldown is 3.75 seconds, you can just always have this down. It is so difficult to push into a Bloodseeker going this build. So we're going for a little bit longer here, but this is basically, this is the idea. This is the thing that makes this hero so cool to me right now. 30% lifesteal is never that good. I feel like everyone's just going to go for the Blood Right cooldown in all circumstances. But going for the Octarine Core, going all in on this Blood Right build is awesome. It looks so good. And now he's got an Arcane Rune. 2.5 second cooldown on Blood Right. And it has a 60 mana cost. Look at that. He can just always have it cast down. And when he's got that, when the enemy sees that drop, that AoE, they know they can't walk into it because then they're silenced up, so they're impaired for the next team fight, and they took 500 damage. What? What? Dude! So good. So good. And now he's going to finish his Boots of Travel, and the game will end shortly. So that's the end of the daily, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that I nailed home the idea that Bloodright, which is an ability when it was released I thought was absolute garbage, is the shit. I really think this ability is awesome. At level 25, he's dealing close to 500 AoE pure damage, and a massive AoE. 600 AoE is pretty damn massive on a 3.5 second cooldown while he's lifestealing it, and everyone that's hit by the AoE is summoned for 6 seconds. You can perma-stun, or silence for 6 seconds. You can permanently silence someone if they get hit by this twice. This is an incredibly powerful ability, and it makes it so people can't push into your base, and it makes it really easy to push into the enemy's base, especially if they're dependent on spells and are short on BKB. So, wait, what? It does not. Okay, so BKB does block it. So you have to burn BKBs just to, like, avoid this garbage that's on a 4-second cooldown. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. If you like this content, hit those like and subscribe buttons, and stay tuned for more videos like this and more professional Dota 2 hero player VODs. See ya!